everyone. Welcome back. In the United States, 1 in every 54 children are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Our next guest is a father of 2 with a firsthand experience on raising an autistic child. And through his dad's publishing company, he's been able to create children's books to help families understand and embrace topics such as autism. And through his new children's book, His Own Way, that's written from the perspective of a little girl whose brother is autistic. And joining us to tell us more, please welcome author Sergio Liden. Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much, Ms. Valentin. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. The concept of this book was very much written. It's almost autobiographical. I've written a little over 30 books. We're releasing about 1 every month and a half to 2 months. We've already started. This is the second one this year. The next one's coming out in a couple of weeks. But this one is actually written from my daughter's point of view with regards to my son. When we found out that he was diagnosed with autism, we were desperately afraid. My wife and I were desperately afraid. We weren't sure if that meant it was a death sentence, if that meant it was what his future. For any of your listeners, by the way, autism is not a death sentence, but it was something that we were absolutely afraid of. Women have that book, What to Expect When They're Expecting, when they're pregnant. I think we have about a dozen or 2 dozen copies of that book around, around the house. It's almost like fruitcake. You just kind of repack it and give it to the next person.
Right.
But I wish this is a book that we got when we were told that our son was autistic, because we were never told that the fear that we had with regarding our son, that it was a journey, that the dealing with our son was going to be a journey. It was not a destination, and to not forget the other individuals in the house. It wasn't until after a year of life after the diagnosis that I looked at some of the illustrations that my daughter did. She loves to draw, and they were really depressing. And I realized that I had actually failed as a father. My job is to protect and to take care of. And it felt like an incredible failure because I had neglected and ignored her needs.
So
and there's something
how old is she? How old is she? How old is your daughter?
They're 18 months apart. So when, she was 3, when he was 3.5, she was 5. When there was the diagnosis. They're much older now. They're 16.5 and 18. So yeah, they're 18 months apart. But back then it was 1 year of, and you read the book. So there's one of the things with regarding the book is, how autism affected her. But it wasn't how really autism affected her. It was about how neglect affected her, because she never had a problem with her brother being autistic. It's written from a 5-year-old's point of view, the
Right.
way that she sees it. I mean, the first line of the book is, my brother is autistic. It really is quite funny. It means he opens and closes doors all day and hops around like a bunny. The reality is, when my son was opening and closing doors all day, I jumped in and I stopped it because I was afraid he was going to hurt himself. And then he cried for like 7 hours straight. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. So I let him open and close doors all day. I just put my arm in the door jamb. That was the different, perspectives between her seeing a brother, seeing a brother that is, for her is amusing. But for me was, an aspect of, I didn't know it was possible for a child to find everything dangerous in life and being able to go directly to that. He was connected to everything that could hurt him, running out in front of traffic. So it was the neglect that she felt as the sibling that the story is about. It's about seeing people that are different and accepting the absolute connection, because the connection that they had, my son was diagnosed with severe autism. It's a spectrum. You're right. In the United States, it's 1 in 54 today. But those are actually stats from 2016. When my son was diagnosed in 2003, in the United States, it was 1 in 150. In Australia, it's 1 in 70. In Canada, it's 1 in 43. In Mexico, they don't actually know the number, because assuming that it's a genetic disorder, fathers are ashamed of the idea behind saying, oh, I made my son sick. I'm not a strong man. The machismo concept in the Latino community, which, the machismo factor concept in the Latino community, shut up. With all my love to you, machismo has nothing to do, has only to do with how you raise your children, has only to do with how you appreciate the woman or women in your life. you know, respecting women,
Right.
respecting children, because we can, you know, by just acknowledging and accepting, you know, the autism, you know, a child being autistic, there's so much you can do even without the services that are not available in Mexico, that are not like they are in the United States. Even in the United States, you know, Los Angeles and New York, unfortunately, you know, the sides of the country are the places that you love to be if your child is autistic. There are
Right.
many more services on the sides. But even without understanding those services and not knowing, getting those services, the idea is, you know, accept,
Right.
which is what I had to do, you know, accept responsibility. Who's responsible for his being autistic? I don't have time in the day. I don't
Right.
have time to say that it's their fault or their fault. It's my wife's fault. It's my fault. It doesn't matter. It's about moving forward and about putting the family together. Because the doctors told me that our son would never eat solid food. He would never look at me. He would never give me a hug. That's what they said. Therapies that I took him to never worked. We went all the time. We went to therapy five days a week. It did nothing. One of the things that did happen was the X factor that the doctors never considered. And that was the relationship that my daughter had with her brother. That my daughter had with her brother. So my brother was able to connect his own way, regardless of the amount of therapies that we took him to. It was me trying to get my son to do things in the way that I believed they should be done, where my daughter looked at her brother and said, "You'll do things whenever you're ready." And
Right.
we all move at different paces. And that's what this book is really about. It's the aspect of moving at different paces. And once we accept the fact that people move at different paces, you know, instead of paying attention to the differences in our society, you know, with each other, we should more focus on our, you know, common shared humanity.
Right.
My daughter taught him to eat solid food. So let's see, he looks at me every day. You know, he hugs me all the time. He talks to me. He eats. He almost seems normal. He almost seems typical, which is the proper term. But it's
Right.
an aspect of acceptance, which I think is the only reason why he got better so quickly. Why he superseded the standards that the doctors believed they would have for him. So anywhere there may not be programs or therapies for autism,
Right.
if you acknowledge the issue, then you can move forward and you'll have the X factor to deal with, the X factor that'll come in and save your and save you. So
Well, I appreciate you sharing it from this personal perspective, and I do want to say to our viewers, you know, everything that he's sharing as far as the way the book is written. What's beautiful is that it is written from his daughter's perspective as a young girl. I believe he said 5, and what you really get from it is that she embraces his individuality, and I think the world needs more of that. So thank you for birthing it in the form of a book, and thank you for creating a publishing company that will publish books that represent us people of color, specifically Latinx, right? Because you're Latino, and also for making an appearance today in honor of our closing out National Autism Awareness Month. So thank you, Sergio Liden. And you guys, once again, His Own Way by Sergio Liden can be found on dadspublishing.com. All right, we have to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We have more open when we return.